I think opera is deeply embedded in my DNA. As I've grown in my knowledge of myself as a Yorta Yorta woman, I realised that this powerful singing of knowledge, singing of story, that's something that my ancestors have done for millennia. I'm Deborah Cheetham and I'm the Artistic Director of Short Black Opera.
Deborah, hello, we meet again. Let's bump elbows in these COVID times. Good to see you again. Now, it has been a bit over 10 years since Pecan Summer first premiered. How does it feel when you reflect back on where it started and where you are creatively today?
It is hard to believe that it's 10 years, a decade. In fact, Pecan Summer has completely changed the course of my life, I would say.
We will cross the Nala, we will cross the river.
Pecan Summer took me about 3 years to write, to develop the knowledge around the story of the walk-off from Kamragunja Mission Station, when Yorta Yorta men and women took their children and walked off that mission station in defiance of the harsh conditions that they'd lived under. Up until the point that I began that journey, I really only thought of myself as a soprano. That's what I trained to do. And yet in Pecan Summer, I'd taken my voice and I'd used the knowledge of singing to write this opera. It took me another 6 or 7 years to actually add composer to my email address. I wanted to make a contribution as a composer to First Nations languages in everything I do. There's a larger metaphor here in my latest opera, Pawang Lifts the Sky. Pawang's a magpie, by the way, where we meet a young boy and a girl. And the young boy, Koki, he's always quoting the Latin word for everything. He knows the Latin word for absolutely everything he can see.
My name is Jajaram, and this is my little brother Koki.
He knows nothing of the Warawarang name for everything he can see. And he says in his aria, I've studied Latin by the fire glow, and at school where we learn about things we've never seen and places we've never been.
I've never seen anything like this before.
So it's fundamental to me is the connection with First Nations languages. If I want to take myself seriously as a First Nations composer, as an Australian composer, I need to know about this place.
Can you talk me through why it's so important for you to incorporate language and culture in opera?
Language is fundamental to your training as an opera singer. You may need to study Czech, Russian, Italian certainly, German, French, First Nations languages. How can it be that I live on Bunurong country and I've never sung an opera in the language of Bunurong? I've spent 30 years of my life working hard at these European languages so that I can be taken seriously as an opera singer, and yet to know nothing of my own language, how can I take myself seriously? When I was writing Pecan Summer, the very first word that is sung by the company is Yorta Yorta. And that is so deliberate. That was so important to me. Opera comes from a very deep place, from an understanding that ceremony for First Nations people is a kind of opera. It's a telling of an important story. You're painted up, you dance, you sing. the narrative is there. That's what opera is. We've been doing that for millennia.
Deborah, are you able to verbalise what that feeling is like of being able to connect with language and sing in language?
I think that's why we have music. I've probably struggled to answer your question there because there are some things that only music can describe. But it connects me to a grandmother that I never knew, to a language that is my birthright. And it empowers me each and every time I sing in the language of my ancestors. Dungala Children's Choir was formed in 2009 actually, before Short Black Opera. When I was writing Pecan Summer, I knew I wanted to embed children into that story. It was very important. That opera and that story was brought to life by that children's choir. After Pecan Summer, I wanted to find a way to help those children connect with language more readily. And the obvious way to learn any language is through song. So I began to write songs for the choir. And over a period of 6 years, I was very fortunate to travel with Short Black Opera around the country, work with children in other places to develop songs that would have their own language embedded in that song, and then gift that song back to those children we worked with. It produced eventually a collection of 11 songs with 9 different languages in the Dungala Choral Connection Songbook.
The last decade has been so epic for you, and I'm wondering, what does the next decade hold for you? Are you planning that far ahead?
The last week has been epic, Namila. The next decade is about continuing to support our singers and our children's choir, of course, but also championing that journey of the First Nations orchestral musician. But I realised very quickly that if we can grow a community of classical musicians around those singers, then we can tell the story more powerfully, more directly, more succinctly, with greater authority. That's what's important to me, that we can bring the truth and the honesty of a life lived, the experience, not only the knowledge but the understanding that First Nations people have of the importance of art in our lives, the importance of music in our lives, not only as a form of entertainment but an actual way of knowing and being in the world. In classical music, it's probably climbing Everest when I see a First Nations violinist as the concert master of one of our great orchestras. I will know that I am Tenzing Norgay. I have climbed the summit of Everest.